All right, just want to thank Ernesto and Jim for the opportunity to come down here to Austin. As Jim said, my name's Kelly Nutt, and I spell that with two T's. Separates me from the real ones. So the reason I like to come back down here twofold. Well, before I get to that, let me tell you that I am the business development manager for Swarm Resources in Dallas, Texas. Swarm is a independent oil and gas company. We drill wells and for monthly income and tax write-off. I'll get to that a little bit more later. Before I really get into the ins and outs of oil and gas advantages of an oil and gas investment, I want to tell you a little bit about me. That way you kind of know, if anything what I say in the next 15, 20 minutes makes sense with you, then you'll know who I am and kind of where I'm from and what I'm about. And if it makes sense, and you know, we may talk again later. I was born in Plano, went to Stephen F. Austin, played football, graduated in 1981, a long time ago. I'm 65 years old. I got out of Stephen F. And got transferred to Pflugerville back in the 85. My son was born in Austin. So it was 84, 85, got transferred down here. So that made me about 25 years old. In the time since I was 16, I started umpiring in the summertime, just make a little summertime cash, stayed with it, and worked my way up to high school, and got into some junior college baseball before I moved down here, and then met a couple of guys, one of them named Randy Crystal and John Bible. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're here in Austin, and John used to be a law professor here, but they were in the Southwest Conference, and I worked with them and got to go across the street. I don't know, by show of hands, anybody ever been across the street to Disch Falk, watch a baseball game? All right. Then if you're there, chances are you've either probably cussed me or clapped for me. I don't know which, but I've been there for 40 years. I just retired from the Big 12 last year, but Austin was a big part of my umpiring career because Cliff Gustafson, one of the best coaches around, passed recently. He gave me an opportunity in the Southwest Conference at 25 years old, and I've been working Division I baseball. Got to work Omaha in 03. Texas was there at that time, and they didn't win it. Rice won it, and but that brings me back around to why I got to come down here. My daughter lives here with her family, my two granddaughters, and my wife and I came down Friday and went to LaGrange and got a motel and fished over at Fayette County Lake. I don't know if I got any fishermen in here, but Fayette County is one of the best little old unknown lakes around. So we've been down here all weekend, and we're spending the night, going home tomorrow. So that's a little bit about me personally, about umpiring, why Texas means a lot to me because of what Cliff did for me back in the day. All right, so let's talk about oil and gas. Swarm Resources. 20 years ago, the owner of Swarm Resources gave me an opportunity to come to work for him. He hired me on my first job 20 years ago. I was a coach, teacher, and running an indoor hitting facility. And one of my good friends to this day and instructors went to work. All of a sudden he said, "Hey, I can't come in and do my lessons. You got to pick them up. I got a job." I said, "All right, man, good luck." About 2 weeks later, I saw a post on Facebook and said, "Man, it's great to have a job where you can take two hours off during the day to go home and sit out by the pool." So I called him. I said, "Man, what are you doing? I got to have some of that." So anyway, it was with Dave May at another oil and gas company he owned. And so I've been with him 20 years, and he's been in the business 30. The company I started with, he took it public, sold it to a hedge fund company, and we started Swarm Resources 7 years ago, 2017. So six years ago. So what we do, we talk to C-level executives, business owners about a strategy of, instead of paying Uncle Sam a full check on your tax liability, take the same money you're going to send to the government, put it in a drilling program, and write it off. Oil and gas is the only investment out there that you can write off over time 100%. You get about 75 to 80% the year incurred, and then amortize the other 15, 20% over the next 4 or 5 years. So it does come out to be 100% tax write-off. So instead of writing a check to Uncle Sam, put it in a drilling program, it's going to allow you monthly cash flow, which a lot of guys that have big portfolios don't understand that they don't get monthly cash flow unless you're in real estate and you got a bunch of rent houses, and that's good too. We don't try to take you away from what you're doing right now in your investment portfolio. I just tell people I don't want all of it, just give me a piece of it and let me go to work for it. But you'll get monthly mailbox money for the next 10 to 15 years. These wells will last you that long in production, especially where we're drilling them. So the tax write-offs are guaranteed to you by the federal government. There's a section in tax code, section 263-C, and it's intangible drilling costs, IDCs, and they fall under that. And if you have a tax accountant, and this sounds like something you may want to look into, call him and talk to him about it. I am no accountant, disclaimer right there. I am no geologist, disclaimer, I am no driller. I'm a guy that got into the oil and gas business 20 years ago and just over time developed a little bit enough to be dangerous about how everything works and puts together. My job as a business development manager is take prospective guys that are open-minded to make money and be able to write it off. Explain our program to them. It takes me about 10 minutes on the phone. Explain the program to them. If they want to go further, we get into it, and then they become partners. And then we send them checks off the production of the wells that we're in. So that's one thing. You get active tax benefits. The next thing is you get monthly income. And these wells, I don't know if you know this or not, but everything in the oil and gas business is public knowledge. You can go to websites. Every well that's drilled in the United States has a number, an API number, and that's like a Social Security number. And you get that API number. Here in Texas, everything's reported to the Texas Railroad Commission. We're drilling wells up in Wyoming in the Powder River Basin, which is one of the largest basins in the U.S., and everything goes through the Department of Natural Resources up there. We're drilling some wells in the Permian Basin out in West Texas, probably the largest oil and gas reservoir in the U.S., and up in the Powder River also. So what we do is we put together these programs. Well, let me back up a little second. Y'all ever heard the expression, it's not what you know, but who? All right. Well, the owner's swarm, Dave May, met a guy who is a oil and gas attorney / landman. And he's got some inside hookups to publicly traded companies. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. I don't know if you guys even know much about oil and gas at all, follow it. But there's a company called EOG, publicly traded on the stock market. A company called Marathon Resources, publicly traded on the stock market. Marathon Resources, publicly traded on the stock market. Devon Energy, publicly traded on the stock market. The reason I keep saying that is these guys are drilling multi-million-dollar quarters. I don't know if y'all ever seen, all right, some people even I've talked to said, yeah, I invest in EOG. I've never had a chance to drill with them. How did you get that? I said, well, let me explain to you. Those companies, when they put a drilling package together, say they're going up there and they're drilling 4 wells in one set of acreage. Well, they put a drilling package together, and those wells cost $12, $15 million a piece. So what they'll do is carve off 4 to 5% of their wells, and industry partners like Swarm, hedge fund managers, they can come in and we can buy that from them, pay cash money for it, whatever the going price is. Then we own that as a company. So what we do is we package up those wells in an investment program and put them in front of private investors. And when the wells hit, and they hit pretty often, and they hit pretty good, then EOG will cut Swarm Resources a check for our percentage, and then we in turn turn it around and send it to our partners. So that's one thing that separates Swarm from the average bear. There's a lot of drilling companies around. There's a lot of people that are oil and gas companies, and they're doing good things. But I don't know. I've been in this 20 years, and I know a lot of guys, and nobody that always goes, how are you getting that? And I said, yeah, talk to Dave. That's, proprietary information. I don't know. But that's one of the things we do different at Swarm, is that we, business model we started 3 years ago, we're never going to change it because we got this inside track to a couple of companies up there right now. The Anschutz, they're not publicly traded. They're out of Denver. And Peak Exploration, they are drilling up in the Powder River Basin and killing it. It's out there. You can look it up on the website, and they are doing 750 to 1,000 barrels of oil and gas a day. And when I say that, oil and gas a day, there's a formula. You can take the percentage of gas that travels down the gas line. You get paid on that, and gas is taking a beating right now. By the way, it's $2 an MCF, and it was about 6 months ago. I don't know why it left, but it goes up and down. Barrel of oil is about 70, and it's okay. We can make our partners good money if it goes to 50. I don't know if y'all have heard a couple of weeks ago, the guys across the pond said they're going to cut $1 million. OPEC, they're going to cut 1 million barrels a day production. And what that's going to do is start driving the gasoline we buy at the pump up and driving the barrel of oil up. So oil and gas goes like this. And if you look at it over time, it's a steady, good way to make your money go to work for you. So that's a little bit about the IDCs. That's given to you by the federal government. A little bit about what we do at Swarm as far as packaging programs up. We just got through drilling 6 wells with Anschutz. I'll just give you a little 30-day recap from what we've been able to do. We got in 6 wells with Anschutz up there in Campbell County in Wyoming, the largest producing county in the state of Wyoming. Campbell County is, and we got in 6 wells that Anschutz drilled, and they're the 3rd largest driller in Wyoming. And we're going to continue to be able to get product from them going forward. But all 6 wells hit, and they're doing real good, still averaging real good oil and gas a day. And so we finished that and rolled out a 9-well program right now with 4 by Peak right next to those Anschutz wells up in Wyoming, and 5 down in the Permian with a company called Hog Operating that's located in Dallas. And that company has drilled 20 wells over the past 2 years, and we're in these 5, the last 5 they drilled, but they didn't miss a well. And just our track record real quick with these good companies that, 1, have the location, and 2, have the geology, 3, have the geophysicists and the engineering, and then the smart guys out in the field knowing how to do it. That's why I figure I'm pretty lucky to be with somebody to show a guy that, hey, look, everything's in line over there. Now, I'm not saying you can't drill a dry hole to get a marginal well, but in the last 3 years we've been with these bigger companies drilling in these good basins. We're 30 for 30. We haven't drilled a dry hole, and knock on wood that continues. But it's really not that sexy. It's really not. Ernesto asked me, "Hey man, you need PowerPoint?" I said, "No, really, I don't. I'm just no country dude talking about oil and gas." And it gets a little bit. There's always questions. There's always something that comes up. Hey, I don't understand this, and we'll have answers for it. But that's what we do. Dave, myself, is the business development manager, and I've got 4 colleagues that make phone calls with me and try to build their book of business. And that's what we do. I get on the phone. I get on the phone about 9 o'clock. We work off a lead list of accredited investors. You have to be accredited to be able to do this kind of investment. And we get a list of accredited investors and call them, see who picks up the phone and see who doesn't hang up quick. And so if you can get a relationship going and talk to a guy, he may like you and look at you and look at your program, and he may not, and that's okay. But that's what we do. It is not a security. It's a Texas joint venture. Our partners have voting rights. So the only way we can solicit to find guys that might want to do this is by telephone. So for the past 20 years, I've had a telephone or, speaker in my ear, dialing and saying hello. And so that's what we do at Swarm. The reason I asked Ernesto earlier about the deal, I was going to talk to you all about the differences now in the last 10, 15 years about horizontal drilling. I don't want to make an engineering class, a petroleum engineer out of anybody tonight, but there's a lot. I'll leave it like this. There are a lot of advances that have happened over the last 10 to 15 years in oil and gas, and like anything else, like, I don't know. I know I'm probably the oldest one in here, but remember back in the day, had 8 tracks, and then we had CDs, and then had MP3s, and I was old enough to have a record player. And so, but everything advances, and so same thing in oil and gas. But when the horizontal drilling came out, I'll just do that real quick, and then I'll be out of your hair. Back in the old days, old school, that's a drilling rig. They have a piece of property out here in Hearne, Texas, somewhere, and hey, Jim Bob across the road, he got an oil well, so they might run seismic, they may not. And seismic is the way they put seismic on the ground and it pulsates down in there, and any anomaly like oil and gas pockets, it'll show up. That's spending a whole lot of money just to find a pocket of oil and gas. But there's always these kind of formations underneath the ground in different areas that hold hydrocarbons that are oil and gas. And the old school way is just drop one vertical well straight down in here and hope that you hit the pocket that holds it. So if the pocket was right here and you drilled right in the middle of it, the chances of making a well are pretty good. Because you're going to see shows, you're going to be drilling down in there, and you might see, y'all remember Beverly Hillbillies? Or y'all that old? Y'all never heard of Beverly Hillbillies. But there's some shows out there where they're drilling back in the day and they hit something, oil goes everywhere. I don't know if y'all ever seen those, but they're out there. They hit that pocket. But let's do this. They start drilling and it's off 1 degree and they go down 7,000 feet because they know that formation's there and they miss the pocket. You got your good old dry hole. And that's 100% tax write-off, but you don't make any money. So those vertical wells are pretty much gone these days. Because what somebody figured out is that here's some land, and we know this formation's here, this formation's here, and this formation's here. Because everybody's been drilling down there, and every time you drill, kind of like a keyhole to what's underneath the earth and where the formations are. Well, look at this. These pockets run like this in that formation. That right there is that right there. All right. So these pockets run in here and they run all the way through this formation and they hold the oil and gas. So now what we do is drill right here, go down to that length. Like right now up in Peak, up in Wyoming, we're drilling 10,000 feet and then kicking a 2-mile horizontal right through all these pockets. That's how they're making those 750 to 1,000 barrel oil and gas a day wells. Because now instead of getting just one pocket, we're intersecting all of these, and the fracking techniques that they're using to be able to get the oil and gas back to us through the wellbore, back up the top, down the gas line to sell it down the gas line. And if it's oil, go to a separator, separates oil and water. And there's a big truck comes in every 3 days, picks up the oil, schedules it or logs it in, how many barrels, and at the end of the month, the companies get paid. So that's the difference right now to where I see the biggest difference in the 20 years I've been doing this is the technology has changed, and these companies have all of these cats that go to school and are smart, and they're petroleum engineers, and they got the background of what's going on over here and what's going on. So we'll just do that. And if you just get a marginal well, just get a conservative well, and you pack that together with 8 or 9 of them, you don't have to hit monster wells to get a good return on your money. So, Multi-wells, uh, spread out your risk. Not that these guys are missing any, but they do spread out your risk. Let's say we're looking for 300 barrels a day per well. One well does 600. One well does 200, but the other well does 400. They're right next to each other. We're looking for 300 for an average. Well, you just got your average because now two of them you got 300. So wells don't have to be the best in the field to be good when you put them together as a multi-well package. So that's kind of what we do. We're on the web as everybody else, swarmresources.com. If this has any interest to you at all, look us up. I'm there. You call my office and say, I was at UT. Exactly, can you tell me more about it? And we can get in depth. I can send you some information. And but if it doesn't, I understand. I know it doesn't because I've talked to a lot of people going out. They get out. So I appreciate your time. Ernesto, thank you. Jim, thank you. So if you guys have any questions afterwards, I'm going to be hanging around right now.
You're selling the kind of shares essentially of an individual well for those tax purposes. Are they only allowed to buy access to one, or do you kind of spread the risk for the customers and say, we're drilling 10 wells right now, and you kind of buy an amalgamation of those 10?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear. Our last project was 6. Okay. The one before that was 4. And this one is 9. Our next one's going to be 12. And when Dave looks at it and we sit down and talk about it, he said, I could split these up in 6, but we could do 12 of them and really cut our estimations down of what these wells need to be doing to make a good return. And so we're going to leave it at 12. But if you become a partner for that specific program, then you get all of them. You get interest. You own a percentage of all of them. And that's a good thing about being an owner. Like I said, I've talked to a lot of guys go, well, I've got stocks in EOG. And I said, well, I don't know, what's your dividends every 3 months? How about monthly income? And you make a whole lot more money being an owner than you can a stockholder. Because those guys, they're making multi-million-dollar quarters in their production report. So, but yeah, we have different programs, and
you get the tax write-off only when drill completes, or like, because I know my father-in-law, he had a large tax liability, retiring and everything else, he's trying to sell some things. Now he's realizing he's kind of going to pay all these taxes. Maybe I can do this deal, but now he's got no time to figure out which one to invest in, and does it have to actually be complete by the time it happens? And so is there a timing element there?
You get the write-offs for the year incurred. Okay, so if somebody were to make an investment in 2023, by February of 2024, we're going to do a K1 for that individual, for that partner, and charge them nothing. Dave has to pay his accountant pretty good money to do that, but you'll get a K1 sent to you in February of 2024 to give to your accountant while he's doing your taxes for 23. Does that make sense? And like I said earlier, you can look at 75 to 80% of that amount is saved. The way I was framing it, I said, look, whether you make it or whether you save it, it's still your money. And as soon as you become a partner in an oil and gas investment, you just save that money from you having to write to Uncle Sam. And if some of the guys I know have pretty hefty zeros, behind their check, and they hate it. So if you can put your own money to work in a program and get to write it off, save money that you don't have to send to government, but you still get monthly income, get your money back, and then have monthly income for, the next 10 to 15 years. And oh, by the way, I can say that, and that's just not a made-up number, because I extrapolated all the wells up in Wyoming and down in the Permian from the website at the government, and I saw wells that were drilled back in 2010, that are still in production today. So that's 13 years. So, and they're still in production, and you'll get paid on every drop of oil that comes out of that well until it's commercial inviolable, where it just doesn't work anymore. But by that time, you've probably made your money 4 to 5 times over time. So, but yeah, that's the benefits of the tax. I try to tell people, I said, hey, the motivation is making money, but the justification is being able to write it off. And so, and a lot of guys just don't have the temperament for it, and I get it. Even though, hey, I'm drilling with major companies, I said, hey, man, all right, thanks for your time. Have a good day. So, any other questions?
For somebody who is trying to learn more about oil and gas, I'm talking about myself, I don't have a traditional oil and gas background. What would you say is a great way or resources to kind of leverage to about the industry? I'm not sure if there are resources online that would be
Good question, because I kind of got asked this question today earlier about what would I have done, because I started in oil and gas business green as a gourd. I coming out of a coaching background with a little bit of sales background, but I knew people and I knew how to talk. If I could have spent more time understanding how the drilling of the well happens mechanically, then it would have helped me to be able to project it to a prospective client. Because I've been asked some questions that, just like this, that back then I didn't know. So what I did is started, now this thing called the internet came around. I didn't trust it for a while, but it's kind of coming around. So for a while I didn't trust it. But is get on there and Google up methods for drilling an oil well. And they'll have videos and they'll show you exactly kind of what I drew up there, like a caveman. But, they'll show you how the drill stem goes down. And every time they get to the end of that drill stem, they got to bring everything up and drop another piece of pipe. And it comes up. They put another 20-foot pipe on there and drill, and it just falls down in there because there's a hole right there now. Don't have to drill, and then it'll hit where the rock is and get to drilling until it's out of. They pull it back up. There's a lot of work. I've watched many a crew drill a well out in West Texas, down here in South Texas, and those guys are workers. They have my respect. And you ever see anybody, because they wrap those chains around, I don't know if you ever seen it, but they'll throw those chains around there and that thing be spinning, and if you get your finger cut in there, you pretty much be a four-finger dude because that thing's gone. So there's a lot of things that could go wrong up there, but they really do it. But yeah, if you want to learn more about it, I would start with how the well is drilled, and I'm not a geologist. Like I said, I'm not a geologist. Rocks don't get my motor going, so there's really no use to understand the geology. It's down there. God made it, and it's not going anywhere, and it's not everywhere. I told Ernesto this morning. Oil and gas is not two different real estate. And I know a lot of successful real estate guys, and I respect those guys because it doesn't come easy. You got to work at it like everything. But real estate's all about location. If you got a house in a good neighborhood that's hot and everybody's buying houses, your chances of selling that house at a high price are pretty good. And that's location. But if you're about 4 blocks away outside the good neighborhood, you're going to be on the market for quite a long time, most times. Well, just like oil and gas. If there's a section of land and all of a sudden they found a bunch of oil right here, and all of these big companies that I just named, they get up there first and they do this and they buy this and they buy that, and you got 6 different companies out there and they buy it all up to go drill it, then if there's some land right in here and you were to go get a piece of lease because you're up there pretty close to where it's hot, oil and gas ain't everywhere. And so if you're with these guys like we are, then you got a chance of having a successful well. And if a lot of companies go up there and just drill a well, I call him Chuck in a truck, just a dude with a drilling rig, and let's go drill a well. It may turn into a water well to so your cows can have something to drink, but you're not going to make any money off of it. So that's one of the advantages again I know I sound like a broken record, but it's not what you know but who. And with Dave having these inside tracks to these major companies, we just tag along and just use their expertise and do that. But oil and gas is a good way to diversify your portfolio. Take a little bit, you know, get with the good companies, drill some good wells, and diversify your portfolio. Take your tax benefits, walk to your mailbox, you know, once a month, and put your money back into something that you want to. So, anything else before I sit down? Sir.
Like if I was a novice to this, thinking about what would the average investment look like and return on the investment?
Good question. All of our programs are different amounts that Dave has to buy. He may like a lot and buy more, or just try to get a little bit and just see. But like one program we had 2 programs ago was 10 units. And a unit is $125,000. You get 1% ownership in every well for $125,000. Okay, that's a unit. Some guys buy 2. I mean, some hitters, some heavy dudes say, "Give me 2 units," because they have that tax liability that your granddad did. So, but everybody's level is different. So you can come in as a partner. You can come in and do a unit. You can do a half unit at $61,250, or you can do a token position at $31,250. Okay, that's a quarter of a unit. And as far as the ROI, give me about 4 or 5 years, and let's look at what it's doing. Because I can't tell you a projection on something that hasn't come out of the ground yet. Does that make sense? Price of oil has a lot to do with it. But here's what I'll tell you, because a lot of guys ask me that. I say, you know, if I give you your tax write-offs and you save a lot of money from Uncle Sam, and then I can give you monthly income and pay your investment back to you within 1.5 to 2 years, you're probably going to come back and drill another well with me, because that's not a bad return, you know. And probably over time, you could look at a 3 to 4 to 1 return on your money. But the way to make money in the oil and gas business is to take a little bit of a lot of good programs. And instead of having 6 wells in your portfolio, pretty soon you're going to have 26, because you're taking a little piece here and a little piece there. And now you got these ATM machines that are, you know, doing money out of the ground 24/7, 365 days a year, never call in sick, never take a vacation. They're always going. They'll be down a little bit for maintenance every now and then, but other than that, they're going to turn it back on and let them flow. So an ROI question is hard. You know, just be honest with you, because every well has its own DNA, and we don't know what it's going to do until we turn it on, and then you can kind of see what it's going to do after that. These wells will come in pretty strong, and then they'll settle in about 3 or 4 months, and they settle down, and then they just don't cruise at that amount. 5, 6 years, they'll depreciate. It is a natural resource. It will eventually dry up, but it'll depreciate maybe, you know, 2 to 3% every 5 years. I got some family land in Corsicana that I told you I was 65, that had wells drilled on it when I was little, and I went by there the other day fishing, and those pump jacks still doing this. Same one. They still working, and they're not making a lot, but you know, 2 or 3, 4 barrels a day sends a check to the family. So, but that's about all I got. So, if y'all have any questions. He hadn't got that far yet. We had on these 9. In these 9, we had 16 available units. 16, and yeah, and most of our programs, once you become a partner with us, you got the right of first refusal. So every program that we come out with, I call my partners first. I go, hey, send it to you. Not looking for a yes or no, just looking for an indication of interest. If you got interest in this one, let's talk about it. Send it to them, let them look at it, and call them back, and I go, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's the conversion table. Here's what we're thinking. You want a piece or not? Yeah, put me down. Boom. I said, we'll work it out later. But if we just get up here and now we got, say out of those 16, we had 12 indications of interest, 12 units already indicated from our past partners. that knows we got 4 units left to go find new guys. And some of those guys drop out, some they don't. But that's how the first one we did this year, we had 8. That went like that. So it's just a matter of what Dave can get. 1, what's available, and 2, how much did he get and wants to keep. Oh, another thing, I'm glad you asked that question. Swarm, we keep 2% as a company. Dave buys 2% of every project for Swarm Resources. I'm a salaried employee. I do get a bonus every 3 months, depending on what we do as a group to fund these programs on time, and that's where that bonus money comes from. It's from production. I myself, I get me a little bit outside the joint venture. I'm not allowed to buy inside the joint venture because joint venture partners have voting rights. But as an employee, I can get on that other side that Dave buys and buy some from him. And I like mailbox money just like the next guy. So we got skin in the game, which I'm not going to get into the other side of it, but we have skin in the game on every project. And that's good to know that, hey, if it works for us, it's going to work for our partners. So we got that going. So I babbled up here enough. So I know you guys got other things to do, but listen to me. Thank you once again. If you got any questions, I'll be around.